Ever crack open a bottle of spring water and wonder, like, what's really in it? Beside H2O, I mean. Today's deep dive, we're heading to 7criks.
7criks?
Yeah, it's this natural spring in Ohio. It's got a pretty interesting story, actually.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's so special about 7criks?
Well, you know those roadside springs you hear about? Where people have been filling up jugs forever?
Yeah, I get ya.
This is one of those, or at least it was. But there's way more to it.
More than meets the eye, huh? I'm picking up what you're putting down. This is about how we view water now, colliding with, like, these older ways of doing things.
Exactly, and a perfect example is 7criks, right? They were totally licensed to bottle and sell their water back in the 90s.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah. But then in 2004, that all changed. Switched over to a public water license.
And I'm guessing that wasn't the end of it.
Nope. Just a few years later, they were told, flat out, no more human consumption. Doesn't matter that their water quality was fine.
Wow. That seems, I don't know, a little backward. If the quality is good, why the crackdown?
Right. That's what's so strange. So, to make sense of it, we got to get into the weeds a bit with this whole bottled water versus public water thing. They've got totally different rules.
So that's the catch. It's not just about the water itself, it's the regulations tripping things up.
Yeah, like bottled water, they treat that more like, I don't know, a soda you buy at the store. Different standards than water that's piped right to your house.
Makes sense. So these roadside springs, they're kind of stuck in the middle.
Totally.
Yeah.
Regulatory no man's land, even if the water's pristine. And speaking of pristine, these 7criks folks, they are serious about keeping things clean.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Filtering, UV light, the whole 9 yards. No added chemicals, nothing like that.
So they're going above and beyond. What's the thinking there?
They actually mentioned on their site that they could get their bottling license back if they used ozone. You know, for
Freeze, ozone, standard stuff.
But they've chosen not to, which is interesting, right?
Yeah, it really makes you think about how we define pure water, doesn't it? I mean, we can dive into the nitty-gritty of ozone later on, but their choice says something. It's like they're saying, hey, we want to keep our water as close to nature intended as possible, even if it means no bottling.
It's a tough call, for sure. So, for our listeners who haven't been lucky enough to stumble upon 7criks, what's it actually like? Paint us a picture.
All right, picture this. You pull up to this charming little spring house. That's where the water naturally collects.
Quaint.
Totally. From there, it flows underground through pipes to a water kiosk. Basically, a self-serve water station. People bring their own jugs, fill them up straight from the source.
It sounds kind of idyllic. But this isn't just some man-made setup, right? This water's naturally flowing straight out of the ground.
You got it. That's a key difference here. We're not talking about a borehole, which is basically a well drilled next to a spring to get more water.
Okay, so it's the real deal.
Yeah.
7criks is all about letting nature do its thing. This is water that's been naturally filtered, flowing at its own pace, just like it has for centuries.
Yeah.
About as close as you can get to how humans have been drinking spring water for millennia.
So we've got this pristine water, right, naturally filtered, flowing at its own pace. Makes you wonder, what's actually in that water beyond the whole H2O thing?
Right. It's not just about being pure, it's about what LSE is in there.
Totally. And the 7criks website, they mentioned something called colloidal minerals. What are those exactly? I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah. Now we're getting into the really interesting stuff. See, we hear a lot about minerals in water, but colloidal minerals, they're a bit different.
Different how? It's all about size. We're talking tiny particles, microscopic even. Things like silica, calcium, magnesium. But so small, they don't dissolve like regular minerals.
So they just float around.
Basically. Suspended in the water, like a super fine dust, but with a cool twist.
Okay, you gotta tell me what's the twist. Hard to imagine something so small actually doing anything.
That's where the size thing comes back in. Think of it like this. Take a grain of sand, grind it up into powder. You've now got way more surface area, but same amount of sand, right?
Yeah, makes sense. More spread out.
Exactly. Colloidal minerals, they're like that on steroids. Thousands of times more surface area than that same grain of sand, just by being so tiny.
Okay, that's kind of blowing my mind a little bit. Why does it matter? What's so special about surface area?
Because now, all those little particles are interacting with their environment way more. It's like each one is a tiny little sponge soaking up nutrients around it.
So they're like little nutrient delivery trucks.
Perfect way to put it,
Right.
Especially for plant life. They're key players in how plants get the good stuff.
Wow. And to think, I bet we just called it dirt back in the day, huh?
You got it. Easy to miss the complexity when it's right under our noses, right? And what's even more wild is that scientists are figuring out that these colloidal minerals, they might be doing good things for us too.
No way, seriously.
Oh yeah, big time. There's research going on right now, Arizona State University. They're looking at clay. Certain types are packed with these minerals, and get this, they found that these clays can actually kill bacteria.
What? Like all bacteria, even the bad kind.
Even the superbugs, like MRSA, that antibiotic resistance stuff, the clay goes after it.
Whoa. Hold on. So we're saying there might be natural antibacterial stuff in something as simple as spring water.
That's what it's looking like. They think it's that big surface area again. The minerals latch onto the bacteria, mess up their walls, and boom, no more bacteria.
That's incredible. Kind of makes you rethink that whole purified water thing, huh? Like maybe we're scrubbing out the good stuff sometimes too.
It's a thought, for sure. We're only starting to understand how intricate this all is.
Totally. So if our listeners want to see this for themselves, any way to do that. With the minerals, I mean.
Actually, yeah. 7criks mentions a simple test right on their website. All you need is a glass of water and some salt.
Wait, seriously? Salt?
Yep.
Drop a pinch in. If there's enough colloidal minerals, the salt makes them clump together. You'll actually see it happen.
No way. So simple. I love it. So we've got spring water with this whole hidden world in it. Then there's well water and the purified stuff most of us are used to. What's the difference, mineral-wise?
It's about the journey. Spring water, it's been on this trip through the earth, right? Picking up these trace elements, minerals, those tiny colloidal guys we talked about. It's how humans drank water for most of history.
Makes sense. What about well water?
Well, water comes from deeper down, usually. Often doesn't have the same mix of stuff because it hasn't traveled through as much mineral-rich layers.
And purified is just blank slate.
Pretty much like hitting the reset button. Gets rid of bad A&D good. So spring water. It's like a little snapshot of where it came from. Fascinating.
Yeah.
But that brings us back to 7criks' big dilemma. Bottle or not to bottle? They want to keep things natural, but to sell it commercially, that means ozone. And that's a whole other can of worms.
Exactly. On one hand, bottling means more people get access to this unique water, right? But like they said, regulations are strict. Ozone's the go-to for making sure it's safe to bottle and ship everywhere.
So it's like we're back to that pure water thing again. We want to kill the bad stuff, obviously, but are we messing things up by taking OUT stuff that's supposed to be there?
Yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it? And it's not just about water, right? We see this everywhere.
Totally. But ozone, let's break that down.
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty big deal.
It is. I mean, it works. Kills bacteria, viruses. That's why this is the standard for bottled water. You got to make sure it's safe, especially when you're shipping it all over.
Right, makes sense. But there's a but coming, I can tell.
There's always a but with these things. Ozone, see? It's not picky. It'll react with anything it encounters in the water, even the good stuff. Minerals, little organic bits, you name it.
And that's where these byproducts come in.
Bingo! Disinfection byproducts. Basically side effects of the cleaning process.
Huh. So it's like leftovers from the ozone. Or
Not quite. It's more like ozone reacts with something and that creates something new W, like a recipe almost.
okay. And these new things, they're bad.
That's the million-dollar question. Some research says maybe, some says it's no big deal. Jury's still out.
So that's why 7criks is steering clear, huh? Better safe than sorry.
Seems like it. They'd rather keep their water the way nature intended, even if it means fewer people get to try it.
It's a tough call for sure. They're really committed to this whole idea of water being more than just, water.
Absolutely. We tend to think of it as this blank slate, but it's not. It's got history, it's got stuff in it, it's got its own whole thing going on.
This whole deep dive, it's really got me thinking differently about what I'm drinking.
That's what we're here for. And we've barely scratched the surface, honestly. Spring water, colloidal minerals, how nature filters stuff. It's a whole rabbit hole to go down.
Well, I'm in. So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will remember from all this?
Don't take water for granted. It's not just about thirst, it's connected to everything. And the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know.
Truth. So, to our amazing listeners, next time you grab a glass or a bottle, take a second. Think about where that water's been. You might be surprised.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Cheers.